So Buffy's dead yet again. Big surprise. But don't worry, as we know, she always bounces back to save the world a lot. However, this recent attempt to revive it was probably doomed from the start. And in this video, I want to explain why the reboot idea didn't quite work and probably wasn't ever really going to be honest. But more importantly, why the Buffy franchise is basically sitting on a goldmine of potential it seemingly refused to use for over 2 decades now, and how a simple modern update to the format could actually bring the Buffyverse roaring back to life faster than Willow deciding that the laws of death are just more of a suggestion rather than a rule. And the weird part is, the solution is already baked into the lore of the show itself. Buffy accidentally invented the perfect format for a modern streaming franchise. And well, Hollywood just hasn't realised it yet for some reason. So the proposed reboot, provisionally titled New Sunnydale, was meant to revive the Buffy universe for a new audience. The problem is that it was doing that thing Hollywood loves doing now, trying to half reboot something while also half continuing it, which usually just means that nobody's happy. While some fans want something completely new, most of the base seem to want nothing short of the return of every legacy character exactly how they was in the OG show and to continue on like it was never cancelled, despite not caring how much Marvel level money would be required to de-age the 2 main geriatric pensioners to convincingly play immortal vampires on screen again. Although to be fair, they haven't aged that badly at all IRL.
No, he's got a point.
But alas, what the studio seemed to be giving us was the awkward middle ground. The main big issue is pretty obvious. No involvement of the big man himself, J-Weed, aka Joss Whedon. Now before anyone starts writing essays in the comments about Jossie Boy as a person, that's not really what I'm talking about here. I mean yeah, he always was a bit of an egomaniacal arseholic twonk, but here I'm mainly talking about his writing voice and the importance of his overall artistic influence across the franchise. Buffy, and his other series for that matter, wasn't just a generic Monster of the Week show, it had a very specific tone. Witty dialogue, emotional character arcs, dark horror comedy and genuinely clever metaphors about growing up that was super relatable across generations. That unique tone and approach was the show. And if you remove the person who created that voice and vision, then you really need an extremely strong and creative replacement to fill that gap. Otherwise, you just end up with generic streaming platform supernatural drama number 27 that's canned within a week. And I don't know about you, but Nomadland's Chloe Zhao was certainly not on my bingo card for the director role. In fact, she'd probably not be anywhere near my top 10 candidates in a million years.
Fact check?
That's true.
No shade, as she's clearly a fine director in her niche, but from what I've seen, the joyless emotional misery porn addict is probably not the best choice to reboot a Buffy show known for its fun and corny humour as well as its pulpy personality. I mean, she could be a good guest director if they did an episode like The Body or something, but probably not for the intro pilot. Even if the Academy Awards attached to her name bring some prestige to proceedings. But even beyond the production staff, the reboot idea itself had a bigger problem. As I mentioned earlier, it was trying to do 2 completely different things at once. Half of the concept was, let's modernise Buffy for a new generation, following a new Slayer in a new town. Well, sort of. But the other half was, let's also keep the core legacy of OG Sunnydale and the old show, and bring back classic characters that new audiences simply won't have a clue about. And those 2 directions seem to be at odds with one another. Because as we've seen in recent years, if you bring back too many legacy characters for either member berries and/or ratings bumps, it just all descends into shameless nostalgia bait that runs the risk of undermining or straight up assassinating the old guard.
You have stolen my dreams and my childhood. How dare you?
I mean, did anyone want to see old and doddery Jean-Luc Picard get emasculated and patronised in a modern day Star Trek spin-off?
Sheer fucking hubris.
Or the bloody holodoc from Voyager having to shoehorn in a lame explanation as to why he's now old as fuck and having to put up with new students swallowing their comms badges or some shit. Personally, I don't really want to see an old and busted Davey Boreanaz and James Masters desperately try to recreate their old characters behind layers of digital filters or caked in makeup.
Ain't nobody got time for that!
But ultimately, if you ignore them completely, fans just rightly ask, why call it Buffy at all? And honestly, that's a good point. And also where the irony comes in. Because I think the Buffy universe already kind of solved this problem 20 years ago, yet didn't quite realise it.
You're teasing me! Naughty!
You don't even really need to call it Buffy anymore. What? As we see at the climax of Chosen, the Buffyverse now has hundreds of Slayers, which means ample opportunity to follow newly activated badass ladies in all sorts of different time periods, cultures and settings. We could meet different Watchers, different enemies and foes, new friends and wacky allies, which ultimately means that the franchise has something that most IPs would damn well kill for. An already built-in mechanic to tell completely new stories all throughout its own universe. something that keeps regenerating itself through the generations, like Doctor Who with its mechanic of regeneration.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So instead of rebooted Sunnydale again, instead of dragging back and potentially ruining and undermining core characters, you simply make a Slayerverse anthology series.
Wow.
Think something like True Detective or The Terror. Each season is a completely new story. New Slayer, new time period, new setting, new cast, all bound by the same lore and universe.
Nice.
In fact, you don't even need the whole worldwide Slayer activation mechanic for this to work at all. Example, Season 1, Victorian London. Fog everywhere, coal smoke, absolute misery. We follow a Slayer navigating the back alleys of industrial London with a Watcher and a small group of allies. Demons hiding in the slums, vampires in top hats running criminal gangs in the grimy pubs and quiet docks. The series finds her trying to make her way through plague-infested London life, whilst also grappling with her cosmic duty, whilst all embedded in a deeply patriarchal society. And the season-long mystery? Something familiar and accessible to audiences, let's say Jack the Ripper. Except maybe here, he's not just a serial killer. Maybe he's something much worse. And maybe the organs he was taking were actually for the purpose of some kind of wider ritual, maybe to summon forth a bigger bad or something. Now Season 2, completely different. Let's say a Wild West Slayer. Dusty frontier towns, demon infestations out in the desert. Maybe the vamps have adapted to live out in the endless scorching sunshine with tinfoil suits or Blade-style super sunblock or some shit. It's just a great opportunity for writers to think outside the box and maybe even show the evolution of vampire cunning. Maybe they're running an outlaw gang and taking over towns to establish harems for food supplies, and the cowgirl slayer goes from town to town like a badass Clint Eastwood in a skirt and spurs, all to mess them up in a pair of dusty Daisy Dukes to boot.
I am very aroused.
Or heck, just go mad with it. Far Future Slayer, Year 3000, Space Colony, Vampires in Orbit. Maybe even do a Firefly crossover somehow, or just straight up adapt the Frey comics for a season. Make it Buffy, but super hard sci-fi. I just feel that this format solves basically every problem that the reboot had. First, no legacy character pressure. You're not dragging the older original cast back to try and desperately recreate something that worked 20 years ago, but that just has such little chance of recapturing that magic today. Especially after all the real world drama, where some cast members have totally gone off the rails, and some can't even bear to be in the same bloody room with each other.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
Second, creative freedom. Each season can experiment with tone and genre. Cosmic horror, western adventure, sci-fi apocalypse. And third and best reason, it's low risk. If one season doesn't work, then hey, no biggie. The next one is a completely different story with new actors, setting and characters. Maybe even have a new big name guest star as a Slayer or big bad in every season, Black Mirror style.
I like it a lot.
And the best part? You still keep the unique and wonderful Buffy DNA. You keep the core ideas. A Slayer, a Watcher, a small group of friends fighting things that go bump in the night. Or in the desert or on an alien planet. You keep the humour, you keep the horror, you keep the twists and emotional AF character arcs. Just without constantly trying to recreate Sunnydale and a specific feel of a show that was simply a product of its time. And you wouldn't necessarily even need Joss. If it's an anthology, every new guest writer could bring their own flavour within the wider style, and the audience wouldn't inevitably keep comparing it to the OG stuff. It's honestly win-win.
Do it.
In terms of the franchise, the truth is that the core genius of the Buffy universe was that it was never really about Buffy herself. It was about the idea of the Slayer. One girl in every generation, chosen to fight the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. And folks, that premise can work anywhere.
Now that's what I'm talking about!
So if Hollywood really wants to bring Buffy back, how about we stop rebooting Sunnydale, let's stop trying to forcibly resurrect the original show, because we all know that bloody never ends well, and instead simply just explore the deep expansive universe it created. Because if you ask me, it's a total no-brainer. And much like the young ladies of Season 7, the potentials are wildly untapped.
I understood that reference.
Ultimately, the Buffyverse doesn't need a reboot of characters, it just needs a reboot of imagination. It needs a multiverse of Slayers. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you liked the vid, kindly subscribe and I'll see you again next time. And if you didn't and I don't, have a nice life, pal.